Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Qualitywise webinar dedicated to Zero Defects direction. This time we will be talking about change management. Before we'll start, let's maybe wait a little bit for the people to join to start the presentation and the topic itself. But tonight, I'm with Christopher Scott, and we invited quite special guests, Georgie Kelly, who is a change management lead and who will tell us how to work with change management because she's doing this on a daily basis. So it will be very nice to learn a little bit who is with us tonight. So that's why we would like to ask our guests to take this opportunity and write on the chat from where are you from, maybe if you're working with change management, or maybe what is your role in quality assurance, quality management. We will be very happy to learn a little bit about you. Who we have? Already we have Jose, who is from Mexico. We have Rista. So very nice to see people, names who already are with us from actually the beginning of the series, like Rista. Thank you for being with us so long. Oh, we have again the face which we recognize, yes. So very nice, thank you for being with us. So we have Belgium, we have Macedonia, we have already Mexico. In Mexico, I think it's afternoon, early afternoon, yes. We have Anka from Romania, so quite international as usual, which is really very nice that around the Europe and even world you are joining for Qualitywise webinars. Who else? We have also England, Scarborough. I have been marking Scarborough once for holidays. Very nice. Okay, so people are still joining and writing on the chat. But maybe let's slowly jump into the topic and start everything on the way. At the very beginning, I will tell you that we have also people who are anonymous, like LinkedIn user. Jacek, he wrote himself down. So sometimes it can happen if you will not allow StreamYard to display your names, and then you will be anonymous simply. Okay, so you can still write your names in the chat. It will be important to see who is with us, especially in connection to the information which I will say in a second, and that you will be granted with the certificates of attendance. Okay, but let me start with displaying this, what we've prepared tonight for you. So we have for you the presentation dedicated to change management. Change management definitely is our closing of the video of the webinar series, which we designed for you, like 6 webinars in a row, to start from the very beginning, from identifying the requirements through planning of the quality, controlling the quality, solving the problems if after in serial production they arise, work with continuous improvement. And now we did everything what we could, but still there are issues. So that's why change management might be helpful. Of course, as I mentioned already, for those of you who are with us minimum 4 times, you will be granted with the certificate issued by Qualitywise. We already sent some certificates to you after last webinar, but we hope that after this webinar, we'll again resend more of those certificates, and you can share in your network that you were with us and you worked to improve your knowledge in actually assuring this zero defects direction. Yes. Okay, so unfortunately this is last webinar and then summer holidays. So at the very beginning, for those of you who are for the first time with Qualitywise, let me introduce Qualitywise. Qualitywise is an organization who helps the automotive supply chain, but not only automotive, but we specialize in automotive for assuring the quality by trainings, consulting, and auditing. I don't want to maybe take too much time to talk about this because we really would like to invite you to visit our website to see what we can offer to you, how we can support your organizations, that you can assure this quality and again work in zero defects direction mindset. Okay. I'm tonight with Christopher. Christopher, is familiarized already for those of you who are with us, but we have Georgie. Georgie, can you introduce yourself a little bit?
Certainly. So I'm a change management expert who currently works within an automotive OEM. And like you've mentioned, I see all of the good stuff we're going to talk about today on a daily basis. So managing changes, dealing with engineering. So that's the whirlwind that I deal with on a daily basis at the moment.
And it's not just engineering, is it, Georgie? It's other departments as well. So it's mainly led by engineering, but there's other departments that we'll talk about today as well.
Yep, certainly.
Great. Yes, we'll probably emphasize that change management is not a one-man show, but this is interdisciplinary. So we'll confirm this, what you just said at the very beginning, just right now. Okay, so as you already remember, we love asking the questions to our audience. So let's start with defining what is change management. Of course, we are not asking you to use the chat to write the semantic, what is the change, because change is quite obvious. But now we need to clarify what is the change in context of the management, how maybe it can be performed, done to assure at the end intended outcome. So we'll be waiting for your answers. Please bear in mind that we may have 10 seconds shift between different platforms because tonight we are on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. And between these platforms, we have like 10 seconds shift. So I'm waiting for your answers. How you think, what is change management? In the meanwhile, I'm looking at the chat, and I must tell you that we have quite international people, even we have Alabama.
Wow, that's interesting.
Okay, very nice.
And that's one of the great things about the webinars we've been doing. We've seen a lot of disperse in all the regions, pretty much everywhere on the earth, which is really good to see. It's nice.
Yes. Okay. So, what is this change management? How do you think? We understand that change management may not be specifically your scope of the responsibilities. However, you may be involved to some distinct in your organizations. So maybe you can see from your perspective how this change management can be defined.
Yeah, I think there's still a bit of a lag between them. So hopefully we'll get some answers coming in. We still have people responding about where they're from, where they're coming in. So
okay, so let's go further, and when we will get the answers, we'll display them. Chris, this will be for you. Maybe.
Yeah, so change management, the general definition, not specific about any sort of ISO or specifically, IATF requirements, but we took the definition from a certain ISO standard. It's a coordinated set of activities designed to direct and control an organization's transition from its current state to a desired future state. So it's very, very generic sort of broad term. There's one thing that is certain, change is certain. There's always things that are evolving. And the idea of this definition is it's basically capturing change as a whole. What does it mean?
I need to display a first answer from Rista, which is actually quite good, full picture, I would say, and it's aligned with what this ISO standard is saying. Change management is a process of overseeing and facilitating change at any level where it occurs. It is up to management teams to decide exactly how this change will be addressed, develop the process, and how to best execute and apply. What else do we have? Controlling and guiding in design, supply, and process, but also here, the system. Peter Jan, hello. Oh, Peter Jan is in Poland, not in Netherlands this time.
Must be business trip.
Hello.
Love the
Yes.
dedication. I love the dedication.
Enjoy Poland, yes. And we have another answer, the process, how to improve the way of working on problems. Yes, if this is the trigger. Okay, so we're closer and closer to this, what change management can offer to us in our organizations. Okay, let me go farther maybe. Because you know that I am a QMS expert, I really love presenting you the knowledge also in the context of this, what system requires from us. And this is also a kind of mission for me, that you avoid your non-conformities in your organizations during ITF audit. So let's pay attention that change management, actually the control of changes, this is how it is formally called in ITF, is referring to serial production. So we will be discussing this this point, but also I will tell you honestly, you can also find the requirements for control of changes when there is still pre-serial phase, when we are doing design and development. However, we are now in our webinar after already this phase of pre-serial production. So we decided to present you this control of changes, what is happening in the organizations on the shop floor after we have everything approved from the customer. So please pay attention that every time in your organization, if you are certified to ITF, you need to have a documented process. So a kind of standardized procedural approach to this, how you will work with this change management. And this is really very important because this is not easy task. And as already said, it is interdisciplinary mostly because a lot of function needs to give their input. What's more, ITF is saying clearly about the sources. What are the sources of this change? Please remember that, of course, you internally can decide that we want to do a change, but also your suppliers may come to you and say, we want a change, but also the customer would like to have the change on his request. So based on this, you need to define the verification and validation activities. And it is very important because first you need to validate the change before it is implemented, because we don't want to have failures, issues after. Okay, that's why proactively we need to validate this before. And what's more, we need to apply risk-based thinking. Yes. Of course, the records and documentation, I don't need to say about this because we need to have everything in our system later to prove that this, what was proposed, is actually introduced, and later probably it will be connected with the PPAP. So that's why everything, all the documentation must be updated. But also please pay attention that it may happen that we need to have a production trial run before we will go to the customer, especially in such cases that we are changing the design of the part, we are changing the manufacturing location, but also manufacturing process. And of course, first and third are quite obvious things, but manufacturing location is additional factor. Manufacturing location can also be connected with the line moving, yes, in our facility. What's more, if this will be required by your customer, please remember that you need to notify the customer upfront and later wait for his decision, maybe approval, if he wants really this change, especially if the trigger is your own organization or the suppliers. And what's more, we need to, of course, obtain documented approval before we will implement the change. Okay, and many OEMs have this defined. Complete additional verification or identification requirements. Like even this production trial run for new product validation. This might be also required. So I hope this will help you. And definitely, I hope in your organization, this change management is really a well-organized process, because this is very important activity in our QMS. That's why I'm extremely happy that tonight we have Georgie, who will share her experience with us. Okay, so I will disappear, and Chris and Georgie, I will give you the space that you will share your experiences.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, so looking at types of changes then, let's have a look. So this is split into product realization, so design and process. That's mostly where my area comes in. And then also looks into QMS, so document revisions and procedures. So
Yeah,
thank you for that.
and the main part of tonight, really, just to add to that, Georgie, is to talk about specifically design and process. So even though Agatha's specialty is QMS and she loves that side of it, we need to try and show you more about change management, which is the whole point of the webinar tonight for Zero Defects direction. So if we just move on from that, let's see. So question to the audience, I guess, is what is a design or process change? And in the chat, it would be great if you could fill out the chat, quickly if you can. There is a bit of a time lag, 10 seconds to 30 seconds before you see this, so it might seem a bit awkward when we're waiting. But we want to see what you say. What do you think a design change is? What is the definition in your experience? And what is the definition of a process change?
Or also maybe what are the situations you had in your organization? What was the reason for the change? This also might be a hint for you to maybe indicate and share with us.
It's one of those ones where we don't want to give too many hints, do we? Because it's quite obvious. Once you have a hint, you know exactly what it is straight away. So let's see what people say.
Okay.
But interesting point, I think, Georgie, when you've mentioned about the product realization side of it, and then you said more specifically is the design change bit that you mainly work with. And then we have the other side, which is the whole quality management system, which is what the quality people do, the quality coordinators, they work with the whole organization. That's still a part of change management. It's still a requirement to manage changes within the QMS. Here we go. We're starting to get them coming in.
Oh, we have the first. Robert wrote, design change could be also a material change. Of course, material change also connected. Please bear in mind that this will be also connected with people after. This is classic one. In a nutshell, change of one of the 4 M's. Good, interesting. Also, you can consider the change in. What else? Okay, I think we have quite nice answers. Chris, keep going, please.
Yeah, let's move on. So, what are the types of changes? So let's go through it. You've got design changes. Georgie, maybe we can explain what the definition would be for that.
Yep, so modifications to product specifications, features, material, or functionality.
So we had that in the chat, which is good. So someone did mention material changes, and you'd be surprised how many people think material changes aren't design changes. It's just normal to change the material. It's not. It's not a process change. It is a design change. It falls into that category. And the second side of that, which you mentioned, and we're going to talk about, is process changes. So what would be the definition that you think?
So alterations to the manufacturing processes, including equipment, tooling, or parameters.
Yeah, so Agatha gave you a bit of a hint at the beginning when she went through the IATF requirements. It was pretty much there at the beginning. This is the sort of definitions, and it gives you an idea. But in simple terms, this is what it means, the differences between a design change and a process change. And your organization needs to have these definitions to be able to manage change. Moving on from this.
1 second. We already got quite interesting answers also on the chat. First of all, let me display Corey. Design change. Any change to an existing design, such as the dimension, material, and tolerances. Okay. What else? A design change involves a modification to the product design or technical specification. This includes dimensional change, material, substance changes, functionality updates, drawings, or cut, data changes, software revisions. Oh, software, yes, if embedded in the product. Good. What Alan is writing, change management is the process of guiding individuals and organizations through change to achieve desired outcomes with mind. Okay, this is for the first one, for the first question. And process, different equipment used. Okay, can be also the trigger. What else? I like this, that change can come from voice of customer or voice of the process. So these are the sources. In fact, Crystal is writing about dimensional change.
Yep.
What else do we see? Improve the output when major defects appear. Oh yes, this is the reaction for problem solving. Okay, so is there anything else? Okay, so we can keep going.
Yeah, let's keep going. So all really good answers, very, very holistic. Some of them are triggers and inputs to what that means, and some of them are actually definitions, which is really good. But what I'm going to talk about now, with the help of Georgie, is to go through the engineering change cycle. Now, some people who are design engineers in the call or they work in quality will know there's more than just 4 steps, but we're going to go through 4 main phases, a bit like PDCA or PDSA, very similar. But we want to break it down because for some people, this is the first time they're understanding this process. So the first stage is the identification stage. And what does that include? That includes things called internal inputs, and then we have external inputs to an identification stage. So these are inputs, and then what comes next from that? So we have the input phase, and then we have, on the external ones, suppliers and customers. So in a diagram perspective, we're trying to show what does that look like to simplify and help people understand it better. Georgie, what would you say the main things at this stage for the identification stage that you've seen? So what would you work on?
As you can see noted below, we see all this on a regular occasion. So problems or errors, improvements or design improvements, any opportunity to do that would come through the process. Customer requests, supplier update information or parts that they're providing to us, and then any regulation changes, legal changes, safety changes, those types of things we would see come through the identification phase.
Great. And moving on from that, looking to phase 2 is the planning phase. So maybe the quality people are thinking, it is a bit like PDSA or CA. It's very similar. In the planning phase, what would you say are the main points for that, Georgie? So we're just waiting for it to catch up on the slide. Yeah, here we go.
So this is the point where we're looking for that engineering change request to be created and have the same request, have a review, an internal review of that change to understand the information that's been input in that. Have the approvals put in place internally to assess the engineering change request, and then out with that process from the approvals, look at getting that engineering change notice communicated.
Great. And then we're looking at phase 3, which is implementation, which means we're going to put the change in place internally first. So we're releasing it on the BOM, the bill of materials. If you don't know what that means as an acronym. And again, Georgie, I'd like to lean on you to say from your experience and knowledge, what should go at this phase.
So for that implementation phase, you're looking at that engineering change notice to be shared. So that communication process internally. Any updates to CAD or any drawing updates to be released. Again, at that point, in terms of any product costs, so anything from procurement to bill of cost capture, any movement on that to be done at that point. And then any SOPs or additional information for work instructions to be updated and communicated accordingly.
Yeah, and this is to help the production team. So if there's a new product coming in, if it's a part number change or it's a brand new product to them and we've obsolete meaning to get rid of the part and bring a new one in, at this stage, we need to tell production in their SOPs as well, there's a change. Maybe they need to fit the part differently. They need different tooling to do the job. So that's why the work instruction or the SOPs or SOP updates are really important at this stage. I'd just like to add. The final phase, onto phase 4, is the closure. And then pretty simple, straightforward. I think, Georgie, you can explain the closure stage and what the conditions are.
So if this is closed out, so the engineering change notice has been closed out and there's no negative impact, we can close out that change within that cycle.
Yeah, and quickly before we say, well, what's negative? Well, it means, have we stopped the production line? Has it cost you more money? Is it everything against it went wrong and we didn't expect this thing to happen? That's the point. You can't keep engineering changes open, if they're successful, but the vice versa to that, or the inverse of that is, if it stops something or caused a big problem or upset your customers, then yes, you need to reopen the change, you need to fix the problem, find a different solution, a different countermeasure, because as Georgie said at the beginning, most identification phases is problems. Sometimes they're quality updates or efficiency updates or cost down opportunities. Most reasons for change is because of problems. There's an issue with either a part or a design, or the vehicle function doesn't work properly, so it has to be corrected through an engineering change release, essentially. So if you're moving on from this, so for engineering change request management, I'd like to talk about these ones specifically, and maybe Georgie, I'd like the chat to think about the opinion on this, and maybe Agatha can come back when there's a question. But just to give the context of the chat, I've got a couple of engineering change request descriptions. I've experienced these in many companies as an OEM and as a supplier when I used to be a tier one. And some of the justifications or reasons for the change was quality improvement. And I'm going to use the air quotes. We're just going to do a quality improvement. Or the other one is design error. We've got some design errors. Another one is it's a paperwork update, so I need to say it's just documentation update, whatever. Yeah. And then the final one, they might say product optimization. Okay. Well, these are the reasons why some design engineers or process engineers might do an engineering change request. And there is a question to the chat. Maybe Agatha can come back. I don't mind asking this question, but let's see if she wants to come back.
Yes, I'm coming back. Yes. Are they good engineering change requests description? What do you think? I think during one of our webinar, we were talking about how precise we are describing potential failures in FMEA. And here we have a similar actually nature of this engineering change request descriptions. How do you find this? Is it enough to conduct a change? In the meanwhile, I also displayed the comment from Robert that cost is also important for change validation. Yes, definitely, because probably we need to invest or adjust the infrastructure or the test stations to change and to actually be prepared for this change.
Yeah, and that's true. And some changes become unviable because they cost too much, and it's not financially sustainable to try and do the change. You know, with all the money in the world, you could do as many changes as you want. Everything's possible to a point, but it's about what's financially viable for a business as well.
Okay, there is a quite interesting question chat. What about the unplanned changes in terms of 4M? This question is quite interesting, but the keyword, I would say, unplanned changes. When we are talking tonight about change management process, we are talking about a quite big standardized documented process. So this what in your organization you need to perform from the very beginning till end to make sure that this what you're proposing is meeting future requirements, is validated, will not cause any risks in the future for the customer, or even addresses the latest, as you stated on the chart, problems, or the triggers are even from the suppliers, yes, or from the customer. But here the question is about unplanned changes in terms of 4M, man, material, method,
Machine.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. I would say that I would consider this in FMEA definitely. Or in some smaller level, operational level activities, not in this process. But I may have my subjective opinion. Maybe Georgie or Kelly, Georgie or you, Chris, will answer.
Well, I think probably I'm the closest to it in general on this type of thing. So let's say you have a tool that breaks in a supplier. That's obviously an unplanned change. So you need to react to it quickly, or production line breaks down, or a whole shift of people are off sick because of COVID. They're all unplanned changes. They're all extreme examples. But you need to have a contingency plan, and you need to have a procedure which can manage those changes. Most of the time, you'll have something called a concession process, or you'll have a derogation process, meaning you use a concession process internally where it goes to maybe heads of departments or directors, and they approve some sort of mitigation or reaction plan. In your control plan, you will have a reaction plan when something goes wrong. So it's linked to your control plan. It's linked to the FMEA, the PFMEA, and it's also linked to a concession process. So you wouldn't necessarily do an ECR or an engineering change request because of an unplanned change. The output of the concession could be an engineering change request. It could also be a correction. It could be just bring it back to normal. It might be SPC, get the process back in control. That could be the reaction plan, and then the correction plan. So that's more about general day-to-day when things go wrong. As Agatha said, this is more about plan changes, long-term things that you want to do. You've studied it. It's going to have a long-term implication. It's at least 90 days before you put the change like this in place. The unplanned ones are different. You should probably use a concession process.
Okay, but let's come back to the point. What is this question? So, of course, the answer will be
No. And Georgie, it's no, isn't it? It's a big no from the expert. So, yeah, it's a no.
It's a big no.
but no. Okay, I'm disappearing, and let's keep going.
Yeah, we're going to talk about why it's a no. So, what is a good problem description? Now, I'm sure Georgie and I can give you millions of reasons why it's no good, but let's talk about why it's good. So, the problem description, this means clear and concise explanation of the issue being addressed or an improvement required. I think, Georgie, we'll just go through the example together. An example of this to give the audience of tonight of what good looks like. Let's have a look and see if it catches up on the slide. Should do. So here's an example of one. Design change required. Door handle assembly drawing does not include recent customer color specification. So we're giving you a real world example in car manufacturing. This is normal. This happens quite often, especially in the low volume when the customers come to see the salespeople and they go, I don't like this color. I want a new color. I want to change my specification. Moving on to the next phase. So good proposed changes. So what would be a good proposed change? Well, the description is a detailed description of the specific changes being proposed, including any design revisions, process adjustments, or material substitutions, swapping one out for another or changing the material type. An example of this for the audience, let's have a look. So it's a bit of a detailed example, but I'll give an exact one, and there's a reason why certain text is highlighted in pink or red. Modification to a particular part number. The dash is a 0, and 01, that's the revision level. So it's different revisions. The name of the part or the product, which is a door handle assembly. What we're changing, so we're saying that there's going to be a part color addition and the part code is BKR, whatever, at a customer request. So that's the first stage. Second point to that is the change is required to support the adoption of customer specification on upcoming vehicles. It doesn't say previous vehicles. It doesn't mean vehicles right now. It means in the future. So we're saying we're going to do something for future state. The final sentence about this proposed reason is procurement, a certain department or function, is to study the change adoption with the suppliers, depending on if there's more than one option, and confirm lead times and cost impact. So lead time is important because if you've got a lead time with a supplier of, let's say, 16 weeks, and you need it in 10 weeks, then it's not feasible. The change isn't feasible. And we said earlier, cost as well. If the cost costs you double the price of the door handle, then is it worth it? So again, all of this work needs to be done before the ECR can be approved. If you don't do this, then it means it's not feasible. And that's why you need the involvement of other stakeholders. I'm going to not say departments, stakeholders, because this is a process. Think of it as a process, not silos. This is why we need to get to where we are. So what's next? So good reasons for changes. Let's give some good reasons. So I said earlier, and Georgie gave us the big no. Why do we need to justify the change? And it's not design optimization is not good enough, or quality concern, or design error, or cost implication. That's not good enough. So the justification for the change is explaining why it is necessary and what benefits are expected from implementing it. What does it benefit to us? As the OEM, as the supplier, as the customer? What are the benefits by doing this? Because in my experience, especially when I worked in a startup, people like to change things because they want to change them, not because it's necessary. So we need to have a justification. So as an example, what's the example that we're going to give? So the design change is required to prevent delay. Key phrase, prevent the delay in the delivery of customer vehicles. So we don't want to upset the customer by not achieving the schedule. Adoption of the change before shipment to the customer will prevent rework costs and maintain customer satisfaction. So those who are used to the factor of 10 rule in cost of poor quality, it's the same for design. The earlier you capture the change in the design process in APQP, the lower it should cost. Once you do that in SOP, as Agatha explained, we're in the SOP phase now, zero life, normal. The change will always cost a lot more than what you could have done in the beginning. So what would be next? Maybe Agatha can come back. Hi.
Yes, I'm back.
Hi.
So why do we need this much information? Because it is a lot, yes. We started from the very beginning when the process how the process was described, yes. And it seems so that it's more and more on the way. I also presented to you what is required by the ITF. Of course, there was set you need to have the records, documents, but also there was said we need to have a risk analysis. We need to have the validation verification procedures. Yes. So it seems so it's quite a lot. And after you also have the outcome from this, what is defined from the procedural perspective. So why do we have to have all this much information? Generally, in my practice, when I'm doing training or consulting, in many cases, I hear we have too much documentation, how to make it maybe more lean and so on. But sometimes it's not that easy to reduce the amount, okay? But I'm quite interesting. What is your point of view, especially in terms of change management?
Yeah, it depends on what we've got on the call. I know we do have some design engineers on the webinar tonight, so I know that there are some people who are on that one side of it, and some people in my experience in previous companies especially would say this is too much. You know, I've got enough to do. We don't have enough resource. These are all the reasons for why we can't have enough information. I'm sure we've all experienced that at some point, especially the people listening today and taking part of the webinar. When you hear these objections like this is too much, I haven't got time for this. You know, I want a quick change. It's urgent. You know, what do you say to that essentially?
I have also a nice comment which I really need to display. I think it is important to mention that such engineering changes should go through DFME and PFME assessment. Generally, yes, in terms of risk analysis, yes, this is one of the approach. However, change management, in some cases, before we'll have a green light, must be presented to the customer. So before, please do not change your FMEAs, PFMEAs, you know, to make it the latest revision updated, okay? Because sometimes you may not have this green light, okay? This may not be approved by the customer. However, in terms of this, that we will not have such obstacle that a customer will not say, yes, we want this change. You need to probably have, at the end of finalizing this change management process, the PPAP. And in PPAP, depending on some levels, you may need, you may be requested to prepare DFMEA and PFMEA as well. So then such thinking is justified. Okay, what else do we have? Also, it's important to perform capability study before and after the change where applicable. Okay, this is connected to the validation, definitely. And we have, quite long comment. Please keep in mind, an ECR is a documented request to evaluate a potential design, material, or process change. It does not authorize the change. Oh gosh, I lost this. 1 second. It does not authorize the change. It's only the first step in the change management workflow. Yes, this is a good point, really.
Yeah.
Plus, identify the need for change. Example, quality issues, cost reduction, customer request. Initiate an ECR with justification and preliminary impact analysis. Oh gosh, it's a really good sentence. Very, very good comment. ECR is reviewed by a cross-functional team, engineering, quality, production, purchasing. Yes, fully agreed. And generally, I must tell you that exactly like Zaki wrote, I have that experiences when I was employed at tier 1, for instance, suppliers. This is the model process. Okay, anything else that we have? Poorly prepared changes only makes problem worse, as always. And Robert, APQP was a long journey also. Yes, APQP maybe. Any change, should it be again documented and validated? Yeah, so change management can be said it's a small project management. Yeah. Okay. I think I displayed the most important. Okay. So let's keep going. I'm disappearing, Chris and Georgie.
Okay.
I'm leaving you.
Thank you. Yeah. So I'm going to probably explain the first bit, and then I want Georgie's opinion on this as well, which would be good. So, what are the dangers of that's too much information mindset? And mindset is in capitals, so it is a mindset. You know, it's a barrier, it's an objection. So, Georgie, in your experience, what is the danger of this sort of mindset for what you've experienced as an expert in this field?
Yeah, so it enables complacency. It can delay change adoption as well. It may have an effect on the decision making from that aspect as well, in terms of too much information. It can also increase costs. I'm hoping the slides catch up with the rate I am speaking at.
Good. Yeah.
I'll just wait a wee second. So it increased costs as well. So if we are waiting on that information in terms of clarity, by the time we get around to doing that, the cost may have increased across the board. It diverts scrutiny and prevents innovation in terms of cloud and judgment having too much information available at that time.
Yeah, and I think the key message that I'd like to say is, without robust change management, chaos is guaranteed. This is absolutely certain. If you don't plan a change, if you don't review a change, if you don't scrutinize a change and get cross-functional agreement as part of a process, then how do you know that it's going to be effective? You will fail at the first hurdle if it's only led by one area of the business. And if one area of the business says we need to do it and everyone else is not aware of the change that's coming, it's going to stop something, and it's going to cost a lot of money. In my experience, I see that all the time. And at some point, it doesn't matter how big the company is. I've worked in the biggest companies, I've worked in the smallest companies as startups, and it can happen at every stage. It doesn't matter how big or robust the company is, this can happen. So what is a good impact assessment? So just to elaborate further on what a good one would be. So an impact assessment is an analysis of the potential impact of the change on various aspects of the product or the process, including the following. So let's go through them one by one. Cost. So this is, both recurring and non-recurring. So these are ongoing costs. That's what that means by recurring. Non-recurring could be a one-off, like let's say buying a brand new tool. That could be a one-off cost, which is a capital expenditure. Recurring costs could be operational expenditure, like getting extra people in your process. The schedule. This means potential impact on project timelines and deadlines. So meaning APQP, you might not hit phase 4 in that regard, or your SOP might be delayed. And then next from that, we were going to talk about performance validation. So this is how the change will affect product performance, functionality, reliability. So let's say you do a quality improvement change, but then it causes the vehicle to break down. That's not good, is it? So absolutely not. Let's look at next, quality. Quality is any potential impact on product quality, including potential risks or issues. And product quality also means perceived quality. It's not just specification. It's about how does the customer perceive the quality of the component now after the change. Compliance. So Georgie mentioned this earlier, but I'm just going to reiterate it, is whether the change will affect compliance with relevant regulations or standards. So legal requirements of whatever market you sell it into. And I think finally, there should be one more. Let's have a look. Oh, there we go. That's it. So good supporting documentation. What should be in this? This is any relevant documents that support engineering change requests, such as engineering drawings, technical drawings, schematics, technical specifications like product design requirements, and cost analyses. From there, what can we talk about as an example? So I like to use this example. I've seen it before as best practice in a Japanese OEM. But here on the left-hand side, we have something called a before. So this is like the current status. Before the change, it's relevant. And then after the change, it's now going to change color. So if you familiarize yourselves, this change we're talking about today as a case study is we're changing the color of a door handle on a car. So it's going to go from a silver or a gray to a purple. And here we have a technical drawing. And that technical drawing is both showing the original condition and the new condition with the color change. So the idea is that it's showing you what best practice is, what good should look like as you go. You can't just say change the door handle to purple. Okay, which door handle? What specification? Why is it changing? That's the whole point. So let's move on from this. Here's an example of an engineering change request. So again, this is just the documentation side of it. It's just a best practice example. I'm sure your organization should have something like this or similar. The idea is of the previous slide, that's the supporting documents that are being attached to this engineering change request. And you might use different PLM, PDM systems like Siemens or Upchain. It depends on what you use to manage change. The purpose of tonight's session is not about the system that you use. It's not about what you use like SAP, things like that, or MRP systems. It's mainly to talk about what is good quality information to have a good engineering change request. Is there anything to add, Georgie, from your side?
No, I think the example you're showing it is best practice from my experience. The before and after drawings or CAD images or even annotating a drawing to show the before if they don't have a drawing that they want to show where the improvement will lie. I think, again, from a comment that was made earlier, that information is key when it comes to cross-functional reviews, purely because everyone on that meeting isn't always of a technical background, technical understanding. So having that information very visible to everyone makes that change request very clear to the wider group. So no, it's a really good example.
Good stuff. Yeah, and I think some people don't realize that when they're in the part of that pipeline. So when they start the request, they don't realize that all these other people aren't engineers. They're not technical people. They need a simple way to explain the change. Because if you don't do that, we're assuming that everyone knows what's in your head, and it's just obvious. It's just an obvious change. Yeah. It's not. And that's the reason why it needs to be clear and concise and unambiguous. So great points, Georgie. Let's move on to the next part of this. So here's a question to the audience. What happens if we do not have change management? We'd like to ask that to everyone. Maybe Agatha can join us, maybe to encourage the audience to talk about it.
Yes, please use the possibility to write on the chat, because already we presented to you quite many aspects of change management. What are the triggers, definitely. You also on the chat wrote that sometimes when there are problems, issues, you're using change management. So we are waiting for your creativity. What can happen if we do not have change management? But in the meanwhile, I just want to maybe display here one comment from Rista, defining CR is crucial for ensuring clarity, consistency, and accountability throughout the process. It minimizes risks and enables informed decision-making by providing a clear record of change, justification, and implementation. Nice comment. Okay. Yes, I'm looking if we have also on the way some. I marked some comments or questions are very general, not related to this, what we are discussing in a certain moment. So I'm marking them, and at the end, we'll try to address as many as possible, okay? Don't think that you're not heard.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So I don't see in the meanwhile any coming more. Oh, there is from Mark. It will incur large costs to your organization and multitude of risks or safety or poor quality. Or maybe, Mark, let's think it cannot also foster continuous improvement, because sometimes the changes are not triggered because of the issues, problems, yes? So we can go one step more further. What else? Risk to customers and production. Yes, if we would like to implement something, but it will not be introduced in that manner like we did everything during the even APQP. Yes, APQP prepared our serial production for meeting a lot of requirements in many aspects to have this robust quality. And the same actually can be offered by change management. We have a comment from Imre. The supplier can deliver unreleased product version to the customer. Unreleased product version. Well, this is really a big problem, what is written. I hope it is not happening in any automotive supply chain. But honestly, when I was auditing, I have seen after 5 years since starting of the production, but this is in terms of the general launching the serial production, that some supplier PPAPs were not approved. So this is a similar case. What else? Lack of EC process management significantly increases the risk of new quality issues. Yes, definitely. Okay, let's maybe keep going. Okay. So Georgie and Chris, this is for you to answer. Okay.
Yeah, so it's the similar one that everyone that's been in every single one of these, you'll see that we've used this and there's a reason it's intentional. So we're trying to reaffirm why we're doing this, which is zero defects direction. How do we achieve zero defects, or the mindset? How do we improve the way we do it? So if you don't comply with quality requirements or engineering change requirements, change management, You'll have a risk of not complying with regulations, which means you're at risk of being fined millions and tens of millions of euros if you don't comply, which can happen. Second to that, we have customer dissatisfaction. So the customers are really unhappy, whether that's the person who buys the car or the OEM are unhappy with the suppliers and the tier ends. The third thing, as you move on to that, is warranty return. So again, it costs a lot of money to send things back, and you get the bill for that as well. Next, the fourth one is loss of future sales and projects. I can guarantee to suppliers that are in this call, I have worked with suppliers in OEMs where they have lost the business because of their poor change management, and they've lost the business because of their quality status. It happens. It is absolutely certain at some point you will lose it if you don't fix your problems. The fifth and final thing is things called scrap, inspection, and rework costs. So these are all, as a summary, it's called the cost of poor quality. That's what it is. This all contributes towards the cost of poor quality. So if you don't have good specifications, if you don't have good engineering change management, if you don't do something like robust quality planning, which is a bit like APQP, or the alternative might be the VDA requirements, if you don't plan your changes in your new product introduction and development, you'll get something called the cost of poor quality. So I hope you enjoyed the webinar today. That's sort of like the main part of it, really. And thankfully, we've had Georgie here, which is really good. And, you know, it's great to have an expert on that knows what this is like and can tell us for certain what is good and bad.
Yeah, so this was like... Yeah, Georgie, please take the opportunity.
Yeah, so from your side, Georgie, I think there's probably something that I've missed in terms of what's your opinion on urgency of a change? I think that's something that I did miss in tonight's discussion. So do you ever see changes of same fast track and stuff like that?
That's a really good point. Yeah, we do see 3 different priority categories, if that's probably the best way to describe those. So we have fast track, standard, and priority changes. So that's something that's really key when we get that descriptor in from the requester of that change. How urgent is that in terms of implementation or the turnaround back to a customer? Or is it going to hold the line up? Is there a shortage of material? All of that's really key to understand to get a better view on how urgent that change is. What is the priority around about that change? So again, that could be something that's a new legislative change, a safety change. So it's key for us to understand how quick that has to take place, and then again to invite the key individuals to get that in place as quickly as possible. So it's a really, really good bit of information to pass on when requesting those changes.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. And typically, when something is a fast track, it usually needs senior management approval or above, like a top management level, because sometimes to fast track a change, in my experience working for like Japanese OEMs and so on, it requires significant investment to expedite that very quickly. So, you know, a normal timeline for a design change might be 3 to 6 months minimum. If it's a legislative change, so let's say the regulation suddenly tomorrow has changed, it's now a law, your vehicles could stop shipment and you can't sell them. So if that does happen, sometimes it can happen. It shouldn't, but it can happen. Where suddenly there's if there's a sanction or there's a regulation change, that suddenly stops the pipeline of money coming in to the business. So you have to quickly fix the change and make sure it's compliant with the law, and that can't happen. If you've had a product recall, a warranty problem, and it's a mass recall for millions of vehicles, then yeah, there's going to be a design change most likely for that, as well as process changes and lessons learned, all of that all at the same time. And they are fast track type changes.
Yeah, I also remember we had a kind of a type 1 and type 2 changes, and it was also connected to the priority. I would like to proceed them. Okay, so actually this was everything what we prepared for you to go through an ideal change management process, how it could work as a model one, yes, to give you some hints, especially if this EC and ECR, what does this mean? I really liked your comments in that regard, but unfortunately, we are at the end of this, what we wanted to tell you today about change management. So we really hope you enjoyed this webinar, but I promise that I will display some questions, what happened, what were on the way. So maybe this is a great moment for this. The first one is customer request. When we're working on design to order projects. Okay, so Chris or Georgie, will you answer this?
Yeah, so make to order is a bit different. So I'm assuming you mean by like make to print. So essentially you're going to make something to a drawing and there's not really any card most likely, and it says make this to a print and you make it. There might not be any changes on that. If there is, then it would be specified straight away up front when they've done that. They might go, I made a mistake. We need to send you a new drawing. That would probably be the only sort of scenario that would happen. You know, you're not going to develop the product. You're just going to change it for a different option. Unless they say something like, I meant to coat the product in zinc and it needs to be ED coated, then maybe that would be a change where they quickly give you something called it's like a quick release or a concession, probably that's that we use. So it depends on if you do design and development, if you develop the product or you just develop parts from the process. That would be my answer to that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another one, what we have, how to manage the changes by adding or canceling a new quality test in the control plan, new measurement equipment or tools. Well, who wants to take this question to answer?
So how to manage changes by adding or cancelling new quality tests. Okay, so it is a part of change management. Now, it depends on if your organization has adopted APQP or VDA or something else. It depends on how do you manage changes. A lot of companies call their own version of APQP and it's company X quality planning procedure, whatever. What you have to do first is identify what the change is. Is it a process change? Is it a design change, or is it a hybrid of the two? They both need to be managed. If there's a new quality test, I would say that is a process change. It is a process change. You're measuring a characteristic. You're not changing a characteristic. If you're changing a characteristic, then that needs to have a design review as well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. This one is interesting because we are talking about CKD and
so CKD environment. How do we evaluate and risk change early before it impacts customer satisfaction and process flow? Change materials. I think Agata's having some issues as well with the connection.
Yeah.
Let's see about this one, CKD environment.
I'm sorry, something happened.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
I have 2 children at home who are playing games, and sometimes it happens.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair
Okay,
enough.
so
That's the first time. To be fair, that's the first time. 1 in 6. That's not so bad. So
okay, so what is a CKD environment? This is a completely knocked down production type. This is a kind of a production in automotive that in some countries we are assembling some machines, part of the machine or a vehicle even itself, but we are selling this in a parts to some other countries to install their this in full. This is maybe connected to the tax reasons, and I don't want to get into detail with this, but in my opinion, this is the difference in that kind of production, instead of a, let's say, regular production, when we are sending the final product or our product, which may be also subsystem as well, to some other customer, it shouldn't, in my opinion, change that much the process itself, because generally you're also obliged to meet the requirements, and change management should be also applied in the CKD environment. But honestly, I haven't been working in such CKD environment. So
yeah, same. It's not very often, unless it's commissioning test material for rolling road brake testing, things like that. But even then, it's as Agata says, it still should be applying change management, of course.
Okay, and also the Rista also had here one comment. Defining CR is crucial for ensuring clarity, consistency, and accountability throughout the process. It minimizes risks, enables informed decision making by providing a clear record of the changes, justification, and implementation. So like that. Let's have a look if something also happened. Here on the chat we have another question. What about the changes before SOP? yes, they also have to be prepared in a similar manner. Yes, they also have to be validated. But the only thing is that here, strong emphasis is also on the documentation, because this documentation will be later put into the PPAP. And please bear in mind that if you are changing something in the documentation, you are discussing mostly this with the engineering department at the customer side. And who is receiving the PPAP after, when we in the organization are preparing to send to the customer? The quality. That's why here it's really important to have everything documented very well, because after completely different people may receive the outcome of this, what was changed, not exactly this like before at the very beginning. The information were shared when there was a phase 1 in APQP, for instance, yes, or MLA 2 in VDA approach. Yes. What else do we have? In case of changes related to safety or regulatory characteristics, change management is very important. Yes, this is a good thesis. These are simply the special characteristics, yes. So here the attention must be put with a really good focus on this. Okay, I don't see more questions. This is the last chance for you to ask us. So take this opportunity. To close this series, because this is the last webinar, as we said, change management is finalizing our journey in this zero defects direction. We hope you see, especially those people who were with us from the very beginning, that everything what we designed in the content in these 6 webinars, actually since January, now we can say it's in full. Okay, from the very beginning, it should support also the project management phase, the pre-serial phase. Yes. Let me also remind you that we would like to ask you for writing down your name and surname if this is not displayed, because we would like to later send you the certificate of attendance if you were with us at least 4 times. Okay, so pay attention to this. And at the end, also, let me tell you that still, you can join our free summer course dedicated to quality core tools. We start next Wednesday, and every week during the summer, you will receive a video lesson to just sum up the most important information about each core tool. So you're more than welcome. Take the opportunity, scan the QR code, and just simply join us. Chris, you are also a co-author in this course. Maybe you can...
So we went 50-50. So my section of it, if you want to hear my strange accent, so I did SPC, which is statistical process control, and I'm talking about capability studies, how to do them properly, the difference between CP, CPK, how to use control charts. But even before SPC, you need to do MSA. Why is MSA important? Why do we need to do it before we do the capability study? So it's a really, really good course. And it's not biased. It's all the knowledge that I've got from all the years I've worked in automotive. So it would be a really good opportunity if you want to learn more from Agatha and myself.
Yes. So this is the only opportunity, because such great opportunities to learn from us for free are only during the summer. Yeah. Okay. And the last thing, what I really want to share with you is, and I'm very enthusiastic about this. We decided to start since September a podcast for you. So now we are officially informing you about this possibility to join our podcast on actually 4 platforms: Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, and Amazon Music. You can find us there by scanning this QR code, which you can have here. You may go to direct links to these 4 platforms. And what's more, those of you who will subscribe on our website to this podcast will always receive this podcast on their mailbox. And what's more, always you will be provided with additional materials like checklist templates or fast guidance how to implement some solutions in your organization. So maybe this is worth to work for better quality and robust quality. Yes. Okay. So that's all from our side. We are very happy we have you, many of you, for 6 months with us and sharing your expertise, because it's not only that we are sharing, you're also sharing your experience on this chat comments. I'm really very happy that so many people joined us. We were like more than 300 people actually gathered in all these episodes. So we will come back to you after summer holidays. So in September, you can expect new webinar series, and simply you can join our podcast and follow us on the social media to learn more about the free content, what we are preparing for you. Any other comments from Chris or Georgie?
Yeah. I'd like to say thank you very much. 6 months is quite a long time, and it goes over quite quickly. Especially planning these every month, we have to do a brand new one. So we haven't planned this 6 months in advance. We do them every month, so it takes a lot of effort and time. And really appreciate all these different people, different time zones, spending that extra time. Some of you are not doing this in your working hours; you're doing it in your own personal time, which is really a testament to your commitment to continuous improvement, having that open mindset and wanting to learn. And this is why we're here. We're all here together because we want to know more and we want to learn. And a special thanks to Georgie for sharing your knowledge and know-how into this one. It's very good and what is best practice, and it really helps someone like me and Aga to understand what good looks like in change management.
Yeah. Okay. So thank you very much, Georgie. Thank you very much, especially to you for this episode, and see everyone in September. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.